Welcome everybody to the Tie-Dye Rye Guy Mycology Adventure channel. So today I'm going to be doing my grain prep. And everything you see here, the sieve, the pressure cooker pot, this is the jar that I'm going to be using to demonstrate the amount of grains, a scoop, and a spoon. And last but not least, our grains. These are baking quality organic rye berries. Now, there are less expensive grains, and I recently heard Dr. Ed Grand say grain prep was the most important part of mycology, having good grains, and the best choice grain is a grain that you can prepare properly. And that is the key point here, is that we want to get these grains hydrated properly so that the mycelium can colonize them and we reduce our risk of contamination. So I have this jar here to demonstrate. I'm going to move down. My scooper is a 1 cup scooper. I'm going to throw a scoop into this jar here, and it's going to be about half the jar, a little less. So when these grains expand, they're going to fill up to about the 3/4 mark. So I'm going to go ahead, since I'm doing 10 quart jars, got one in there, I'm going to do 10 scoops. All right. 10 cups worth of grain. I'm going to rinse these guys out. So I do 2 rinses and then a boil. So I'm going to do a 20 to 30 minute boil on these. You know, it's different every time. The grains are different. So I like to boil them every time so that I can watch them and get them hydrated to the perfect consistency and levels so that I can colonize quickly and hopefully not have any contaminations. They do happen from time to time. But if I properly clean the grains and then boil them to expose the endospore, then when I sterilize them in the pressure cooker for 2 hours at 15 psi, then I should kill off any bacteria that was lingering around in the endospore inside of the grain itself. So I'm just going to go and fill this up and get a nice rinse. A lot of folks like to rinse until their water runs completely clear. I noticed that it takes a really long time to do that, and I've had much success with just doing 2 rinses and then boiling. So then actually it would be 3, because after the boil, we're gonna drain it. So technically it would be 3. So in all these processes that you see in my channel, I found from somebody else on the internet or read in Paul Stamets' book. There are a lot of great channels on YouTube with a lot of information and a lot of different ways to do this. I spent a lot of time researching channels like Willy Myco, Boomer Shroomer, Philly Golden Teacher. There's a lot of videos out there and a lot of great information. And I started trying all these different techs, and I was getting contaminations and couldn't figure out why. So I went through and I just simplified everything, every step of the way in all my processes. I kept track of exactly what I was doing, and I was able to come up with a system that works for me. And it doesn't work for everybody else. So I just want to demonstrate what works for me, gives me successful flushes, and allows me to continue on this path that I'm set out on. So I am not claiming to be an expert at all. I just want to show you how I do it and hopefully inspire more people to grow mushrooms at home. We have access to beautiful medicine we can make for ourselves at home. And it's a lot of fun doing it. I mean, that's really what it comes down to. If this wasn't fun, I wouldn't do it. So we're going to go ahead and fill this up again and strain it off. All right. So the reason I like rye grains, it's really personal preference, is a combination of things. There's the size of the grain I like. It's right in the middle. Millet and Milo being the smallest, and popcorn being the largest that I've ever worked with. The rye is just a little smaller than the whole oats that I've done. But the rye, I like the way the rye smells. I like that it's got a hard shell. It hydrates really well. And because of the size, it has a lot of inoculation points. So it's a average colonizer in the jar. It's a pretty quick colonizer once it's in bulk substrate compared to popcorn specifically. So, and rye is just all around wonderful. And I like the way it smells, and I like to eat it to test it. So, I mean, I can't go wrong. And again, like I heard Dr. Ed say, the best grain is the one that you can prepare properly, consistently. And this is the one that I have been able to. So I am going to advocate, because this is what I do, and I just want to show folks what I've been doing. So once I get these all swirled in, and it's already almost clear. It's got a little yellow tint to it, but it will. And there's a lot of stuff coming out of the grains too. Being that this is baking quality, I'm a little more confident in less rinses. If I was doing whole oats or any of the bulk grains from the feed store, wild bird seeds, then I would rinse until it was almost clear. Just because there's a lot of filth, and they don't store those really well. This is, people grade. So I guess I can have a little bit of faith. I don't know how much, but we're going to go ahead and fill the water up until it's 3 times the amount of the grains in here, and we're going to boil these bad boys for 20 to 30 minutes. I'm at elevation, so it takes a good 20 minutes just to get it to start boiling, and then I'll go ahead and usually boil it for 15-20 minutes after that, and I'll take you on that journey with me, and then we'll get these grains into the pressure cooker and move on to the next step. And then we're going to save the grain water to make agar. So the grain water agar, not only is it economical because you're using your water from your grains, it's also the same nutrient profile, so you can train the mycelium on the agar to the grain nutrient profile, which then will speed up colonization on the grains once the agar is put to grains. All right, we are getting a little closer now. Got some endospores I can show you here. Let's zoom in. I've seen a lot of different ways that people strain and dry their grains. I tried a couple different methods. First method I tried was getting some mesh, almost like screen mesh, and lining that on commercial refrigerator racks, which I then put on milk crates on my deck, And I spread the grains all out on there and, and let them dry, because I thought that I needed them to be perfectly dry, and then I would do the toilet paper test or paper towel test, where you put a few grains onto the toilet paper or napkin or paper towel, whatever it is, and you let it sit for 20 seconds, and then you see if there is any water left over on the paper. Now, I understand why that's important, and if you're trying to teach people how to do things, and you want to reduce any variables for error, it's good to be extra cautious and do all the drying. So I did it as well. And then when I was not too keen on setting up this drying station every time I did grains, I ordered a collapsible mesh tiered herb drying thingamabobber, and I hung that up inside and then dried my grains on those, which then again I had to set something up, and then I had to put all the grains into these different layers and let them dry, and then go through and jar them up from there. And partly out of laziness, but also out of just the spirit of, well, I wonder if I can try this a different way, I just let them sit in the drain, in the sieve, and drain out until there's no more dripping, and I let them sit for like 5 minutes, 10 minutes sometimes, and load them up in the jars and pressure cook them. And I have had 0 problems with the humidity of the grains doing my boil prep this way, and the level that I stop it at and then pour it. So I'm still, see here, there's a lot of endospores, there's a little steam, no burst grains yet. I'm getting a lot closer. So yeah, I just started doing it that way and had success. So, I mean, it's, a lot of folks will say, try a tech and stick to it. Well, yeah, that's very smart, so that you're not mixing all the techs up, and you want to do something, precisely. If it's worked before and somebody's willing to share it, then you should do it the exact way that they did it before you deviate and try to do things on your own, and have a different method. So I tried all these techs, and then I decided that I was going to try it a different way and see how it goes. And here we are. So, and I'm not saying my way is any better than anybody else's. Okay, so I've got a burst grain that just fell. I'm not going to go searching for it because I want to get this off. So now I'm going to drain these into the drain and save some of the grain water. We're now going to strain off some of the grain water and save it into a bowl. Let's put that to the side for now. And Alright, now I'm going to let these sit and de-steam, and then give them a little shakeroonie and let them drip dry, and then they'll air dry for a little bit, and I'll come back in about 5-10 minutes, give them a check, and then we'll start jarring them up. Alright, once the grains have dried and been sitting for a little bit, this still has a little bit of steam, but that's all right. They're still dry to the touch, a little sticky on my hand there. We'll just see here. We'll do this paper towel test like you see a lot of folks doing. So putting grains on there, let them sit for a little bit, dump them off, and I don't know if you can see that, but there's no water on it. A little piece of grain stuck here though. So once we got our grains dry, I'm going to go ahead and load them up in to the quart jars. So if I'm doing liquid culture inoculant or the agar, I'm going to go about 3/4 full. If I'm doing a grain to grain transfer, go about 2/3 full. So just load these guys up. Okay, another really important part of this is the lids that are going to go on the jars. So we've got our wide mouth quart jar, and then I've got a lid, plastic lid that is pressure cooker safe, PP5, and a self-healing injection port and a synthetic filter patch. This is going to allow the mycelium to breathe without allowing contaminants in. This is going to allow needle to pass through with liquid culture, and then it'll heal itself up so contaminants can't get in. So go ahead and put all these lids on, and then once I get all the lids on, I'm going to get all the lids on. I'm going to put tinfoil on the tops of them so that they don't get wet on the synthetic filter patches while going through the pressure cooking cycle. And some jars I have these nice rubber gaskets. Some jars do not. It's just the luck of the draw. Leftover stickers, labels. Try to keep everything labeled and organized. All right. All right, once we've got all the jars filled, we'll start putting the tinfoil covers. I like to reuse these. So, tinfoil covers. All the jars. So every pressure cooker is different. So what you're going to want to do is read your instruction manual carefully. Make sure you're doing it safe and effective. You have enough water for your cycle. So with my 2-hour cycle, I'm able to do 3 quarts of water in my 23-quart pressure cooker. And go 1. And then I'm going to show you how I fit 10-quart jars in the pressure cooker. There's 2 quarts. And 3 quarts. Okay, so you get the 7 fit perfectly in the bottom. Then I find my arrow, which is on the side here. So then the arrow, and then the last 2, I make the bottoms point at the arrow. And then the last guy goes in. Of course. The bottom's pointing at the arrow, the last guy in. So now when I seal it up, this gap here is going to allow the vent. So now go ahead and line up. Where's my arrow? There's my arrow. I'm in, and I'll turn, and now my vent here is right over that gap. So now we're going to pressure cook at 15 psi for 2 whole hours. See you in a little bit when this thing's screaming.